Good morning, everybody. Daniel Whitehead right here in Denver, Colorado, and welcome to the Doctor's Clinic Call today. We're excited to be in your life and to have an opportunity to share with you so many different aspects of what's going on at Sisel International, and with topics and products and ingredients and information that can change your life, that can make a huge impact. Dr. Kurt Fisnick cannot be with us today, but we have an extremely awesome special surprise for you, and it is a gentleman that, you know, my opinion, in my experience, in multiple conversations with him, being on the road with him as well, knows just about as much as most docs do, and way more than most doctors do when it comes to nutrition in those particular aspects. So he's the best non-doctor you could possibly have on the call, and it's Rennert. He's Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Sisel International. He's the General Manager of Sisel International, and just, I call him the General, and he's also has a lot to do when it comes to the Meyer mission, and I've asked him to come on today and just jump into there, and I may ask you a couple of questions as we go along here, but we have a new product that's just launched. Miss Helen and I have been on it since last Wednesday, I believe, was our first dose, and we're seeing a bit of an impact there. And it's the A.G.E, what we call pill. And Aaron, first of all, welcome to the call, and are you having a great day?
Oh, man, DW, I am. And hello, everybody. It's nice to be on the call with you today. Yes, I am absolutely almost perfect. I don't know. It's close, not quite.
Well, you work there with Tom and Tom Jr. and Junior and Liesel and Heidi and Milo and the whole team there. So everyone's, you know, if something doesn't go right, they want you to fix it right away. And you might even throw a warning that, hey, you do this, it's going to break. But you fix things. You make things happen. And we just want to honor you for that and say thank you for all that you do. But let's just jump into the A.G.E pill. And you may want to just start off with what does that stand for and just get into some of the basics. And it's fun to hear from someone who has spent many hours listening to Tom talk about the power, the potency, the purity, the ingredients that's in this particular combination of a pill. And so, Doc, you know, Fizz can't be with us, but Aaron, we're so glad you can. So take it away, my friend.
Well, like I said earlier, it's nice to be with you guys. I absolutely love these types of calls because it's an opportunity to talk a little bit more specifically about product and talk about the things that are going to help us. I had a call with our European staff this morning at 8:30, and you know, sometimes they feel like they're on a bit of an island. They haven't received the Age pill yet, so we were going through timelines and specifics, and so I had a chance to give them kind of the 30,000-foot view, and I'll do close to the same with you guys, because I think if we try to get too deep into it, I think you'll end up losing people as you try to explain it, and I'll give you a good example of that. When I first started working with Tom, I realized that I wanted to, I didn't know any better, so I kind of wanted to talk like Tom. I wanted to say things like Tom. I wanted to be able to explain things like Tom, but guess what? I'm not Tom. I'm far from it. My brain doesn't work that way. And Tom's a special, unique individual that has the ability, as well as Tom Jr., to have the ability to actually speak in such a scientific way, but yet still make it somewhat simple, or to the point where you walk away and you literally, your brain's just kind of rolling around inside your head and your eyes are spinning and you say, I have no idea what he said, but I sure want to get on that product. Hopefully what I say will give you guys the same thoughts and the same hopes, but not necessarily make your eyes spin and your brain roll around in its head. So let's start there. You're right. The A.G.E pill, one of the things that we looked at is Tom Sr. had been talking about glycation for a number of years. As a matter of fact, I had an interesting thing happen the other day, and I apologize. Let me back up a little bit. I had a very interesting thing happen the other day where I had sent Tom an attachment on Facebook that was a post about a man that had lived to be 256 years old. And he's the oldest known man in history that they can document because of the dates that were in actually a celebration of his life. I believe in the 1800s. I can't remember what dates. If Tom told you, he gives you the exact dates, but it was an interesting conversation nonetheless. China had celebrated his 150th birthday. And then, fast forward another number of years, and here he is, 256 years old. In 1930, he passes away. And so they've got him documented from time. So interestingly, I sent Tom this note, and I said, hey, Tom, have you seen this? This is absolutely amazing, and we could probably use some of the verbiage out of it to help us build a profile for the Age pill, and some of the words and the phrases and that phraseology could help us with helping explain it, because it's very simply written, but it's an amazing article. And Tom said, wow, I didn't see anything come through. And so I said, go look at it in your messenger, and he did. And he said, oh, just by the subject line, by the way, folks, with the person's name, Tom said, oh, yeah, he lived to be 256 years old. He's the oldest documented human that we know of that they can actually show real documentation as far as age. And he said, it's interesting, back in 1987, 88, when I first started really looking into Eastern medicine and specific in China, I had come across a young man who was Chinese, who had a student visa here in America, and I got in touch with him and asked him if he could help me find out a little bit more information about some studies that I'd come across that were really powerful studies. And he said, so he started looking into it, and he sent this Chinese young man back to his country and paid for the flights and his lodging and see his family and all that good stuff. But while he was there, he was asked to do a specific task, and that was to find out whether or not Tom Sr. could meet with some people from the government and from some of the university laboratories that were working on these ingredients. And so the man set it up. He went back there. I guess his mother has some influence as well, and so she was able to help Tom get into some of these meetings in some areas that a white man had never been to before in the history of time, definitely no Westerners. And so as Tom went in there, he, of course, started talking about this science that he had found out about these ingredients and what they could do for the body, and he'd actually been given a sample of those ingredients as well. And so as Tom started talking to the people, they were astounded that he already knew a lot of the information and was able to decipher and discern how it would work biologically inside the body to support some of those behaviors that we need to really have great health and energy. Well, interestingly enough, Tom tells me the entire story, but never to open the attachment because he knew it by heart. He'd actually lived it, if you will. And so one of the things that he recognized back a number of years ago is that glycation is actually a sugary deposit, if you will, that when it meets proteins, which is in your stem cell, it actually creates this barrier. And I explained it a little bit. The glycation is being like a piece of saran wrap, if you will, something that you put over food to keep it fresh in the refrigerator. So you can poke it, and it doesn't necessarily pop, and your finger can't necessarily get through it, but it looks like it'd be clear, and you could see right through it and see the food inside. Well, the same thing happens to the cell, where the sugary substance actually creates a coating or a barrier over the top of it, not allowing your body to do its normal processes or functions, which is remove that cellular garbage, which is called lipofusum, and get it out of your system so that you can actually have a good, healthy life and have the energy that you need and all of those wonderful things. And what Tom always talks about is that aging is not a disease. The FDA has said aging is not a disease. And so if it's not a disease, what is it? Well, it's decay and degeneration. The body starts to decay and break down, and it doesn't generate or regenerate the same number of cells. There's a juxtaposition that happens when our bodies cross over, if you will, in age, where we don't create as many cells as we lose in a day. And unfortunately, what that means is degeneration. So we've got to figure out a way to get back to one-to-one cells. Well, the only way you're back to one-to-one cells is if you're 20, 25, maybe 30 again, and then that rapid decline starts happening for every day you're alive. After 30, you lose about 2/10 of a day, maybe 3/10 of a day, et cetera, and then it just starts to snowball from there, where you're losing a day for every day you're alive. You're losing 2 days, 2.3, 2.6, 3.1, 3.8, et cetera, as you age. Well, that is degeneration. Your body doesn't have the capacity to keep up with it. So what Tom had recognized from back in the late 80s is that these ingredients were very specific to the stem cell, but science hadn't caught up with it yet. So even though he could use some of the ingredients, the science hadn't met the unique ability that these ingredients had. Well, as we all know, if over the course of every 5 years science doubles, when Tom got started, you would say that was a starting point of 1. And then in 5 years, you double it to 2. And then in 5 years, you double it to 4. And then in 5 years, you double it to 8. And now you're at 164 times the amount of information that's available at our fingertips. Well, that's what Tom started coming across over the last probably, say, couple of years, is that this information was starting to come out from the science and the laboratories and laboratories that are funded and granted money so that they can go in and discover new capabilities, new functionality, new features of ingredients. That's what's happening. And so here's Tom sitting back watching all of the scientific literature and information and research come across his desk, and he starts realizing that what he had found back in 1988, 1989 was something that he could actually put out to the public. And that is exactly what the A.G.E pill is. It had to be perfected. It had to have the right ingredients in it, and Tom will not stop. I guarantee we'll see adjustments and changes to the formula as Tom continues to get the research behind the science. We'll see that happen. But again, that sugary substance, which is called glycation, is not allowing the energy throughput of the cell, of the mitochondria. And the glycation that is holding in that cellular garbage, which is called lipofuscin, is what is literally 100% holding you back from having great energy, because when the glycation is broken down and removed, when the cellular garbage is taken out of the stem cell, and now all of a sudden as it gets cleaned up, the mitochondria now has the ability to react to create massive amounts of ATP, which is the energy molecule, and that ATP starts to kick off biological hydrogen. The biological hydrogen now kicks into this big, massive surge of energy through the electrical energy of the body. And we're all made up of electrical energy. If there was a prod or a poker that could come in and take the electricity out of the body, we would fall to dust. There's nothing that could hold it together. But we're all made up of this electrical energy. And so that's really the process that this pill goes in and starts to work on. And again, if we look at cellular degeneration versus regeneration, if we're not making as many stem cells as we're losing every day, that's the degeneration. And that degenerative process is what is actually taking us out of our traditional day-to-day lives, of the energy that we had when we were a child versus the energy that we have when we're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, etc. That's the energy levels that we start to lose. That's the bone and the tissue and the organs and all of those wonderful things. That's what starts to be taken away from us. And as we try to get it back, there are only certain things that can happen, but nutritionally, we need to support those bodily functions in order for us to have that great energy. And so DW, that's where I get back to. So let me bounce off of the A.G.E pill. That's where I get back to the complementary side of this. The complementary side is where we start talking now about TSX and the telomeres, and that's where we start talking about eternity and resveratrol and what it does with the sirtuin genes. That's where we start talking about fucoidan and its ability to regenerate cells and stem cells and to have stem cell signaling to go out and repair tissue and speed up the process of being able to heal. That's where it gets into Spectromax and the relationship of essential trace minerals, those minerals that we're not getting from our daily diet, but that we need to have inside our body to create over 2,000 biological functions. Those trace minerals are very important for us to have exactly what the body is screaming for: nutrition, that essential nutrition that we have to have. And then we've got to protect our bodies from the world that we live in, which is this massive amounts of stresses and massive amounts of issues that are going on around us. Whether it be the toxins and the chemicals. Over the last 50 years, we've had over 100,000 new toxins introduced into our environment, into our lives, and our bodies are not capable to keep up with that amount of abuse that is happening as our bodies are being ravaged, literally trying to be broken down by 2,200 families of free radicals. And so we don't have the ability to keep up with it, but we do have the ability to protect ourselves. So we can actually activate, we can regenerate, we can protect the body through these three sources: the triangle of life, and then of course TSX with the telomere. Nobel Prizes were given for the research that was done on those. interestingly, out of the 3 Nobel Prize winners that were responsible for finding out that they could not only stop the shortening of telomeres but start to extend it again, 2 of those Nobel Prize winners from that example are now on this one with the A.G.E pill in terms of what we're finding out with what they've been studying specific to glycation, specific to the response of lipofusum, et cetera. So again, there's just nothing like it, and that's why when Tom talks about it being what he considers to be the greatest discovery in human health, you're really talking about somebody who has seen a lot of different products and a lot of different ingredients. But going back to the original story, when he was introduced to it back in 1988, this formulation that somebody had brought over from China, Tom said, look, the bottom line was I really wasn't sure if I believed it or not. He said, but I started taking it, and where I would literally, not be overly excited to jump out of bed in the morning, all of a sudden I was jumping out of bed at 6 a.m. every morning because my biological clock was going off, and I'd bounce out of bed. He said, I just had all the energy in the world. I slept better, and I felt better, and he said my energy levels were up. And he said, and I thought, well, let me see if I can get my wife at the time, his wife at the time, let me see if I can get my wife at the time to try this product as well. And literally, he said, after about 2 weeks, she started jumping out of bed in the morning and feeling great. And he said she was a sleeper. She'd like to sleep in until 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. And he said literally at 6 a.m. she was popping out of bed. And he said it scared him to death the first morning she did it because she rolled over. And he said she never rolled over prior to, 8 or 9 in the morning. And she rolled over at 6 a.m. and she said, Tom, he said, whoa, what? She said, I can't believe how good I feel. I can't believe that I'm awake right now. She said, I've noticed the last couple of days, but I'm ready to get out of bed and go get some things done today. He said, absolutely. And so they loved it. They ran out of the product, and quite honestly, I believe that Tom jumped on a plane so that he could first selfishly feed himself the product and then figure out how to get it out to the masses. But that's just me because I know Tom that well. But at any rate, so that gives you guys an idea of a little bit of the backstory. And again, without all the confusing science behind it, real simplicity in terms of explaining it, because it doesn't have to be deep science. As a matter of fact, Tom has a video. If you guys have seen the Facebook post that we put up yesterday with Greg Libbard, our director of marketing, where he actually stands there and they're very impromptu. Each one of us did a quick video, and Stuart, our videographer, literally walked around the office, and all of a sudden I turned and he was standing there with a tripod sitting in my office. And I laughed. I said, what do you want to talk about? And he said, talk about the A.G.E pill. And he did it on purpose. Greg actually had him do it, but he did it on purpose so that he could catch you somewhat unawares. And then, if you had to do 2, 3, 5, 10 takes, whatever it was, you did it. But what I, kind of looked at is that it's this push to have you guys do the same. It's this big push to have you guys go out, like, comment, and share, and make sure that you're using Facebook the way it needs to be used, because Facebook has completely changed its algorithms. Facebook now, what used to be this relationship where a company could feed out to the people that like and subscribe to their page in a public page or fan page, if you will, now it's completely changed. They have limited it where it used to be they brought it down to 16% of your likes with the people that liked your page. 16% of those would actually see your feed. Then they changed it to 2%. Now it's 1% or less that see your feed. So if you've got 10,000 people on there that are your current people watching you and seeing you and wanting to hear from you, literally only 100 people out of the 10,000 will see anything from your post. So we've got to have you guys actually go to the page, like, comment, and share, and that will get our name, our information, and all of the details out to as many people as we can possibly do. So just remember that when you guys think about these social media campaigns. But one of the things that we're going to do is have you guys make your own videos. We're going to have you guys work on doing some things that talk about, what you're doing with the A.G.E pill, or what it's allowing you to do now that you're getting that energy level back. All those wonderful things that we then want to spread out to the world and let them know that this phenomenal product is here, and it's going to change the way that people not only are building their business, but taking the products and having great success health-wise with it as well. So DW, I'm not sure where you want me to go from here.
Well, I think one of the things that we love to ask, and we've had these conversations before, is a real simple thing. What would, and you take someone like Tanya Foreman who's on the call, Macy's on the call, we got a bunch of people on the call today. What would they say to a brand new person that would get them interested in just keeping it simple? And obviously we can get them more information. You've got a video coming out in the next couple of weeks with Tom on it and the whole 9 yards there and all kinds of stuff like that, follow-up work. But what can, someone like myself or Miss Helen or would we say to a brand new person that we're talking to that would get them interested in what we have our hands on, in addition to summarizing what you just said, which was pretty spectacular, by the way?
Well, here's the thing. I tend to look at it a little bit differently, and I'll give you an example. I had my parents over on Sunday night. We had nieces and nephews and our kids, of course, and then my wife's parents were there as well. And my mom was turning 79. She turned it to 79 today. So I said, as we were, kind of going through this process of conversation towards the end of the night, as we were winding down and kind of hoping everybody leave sooner rather than later, but because people seem to be staying longer. And so at any rate, we started talking, and my mother-in-law said, "Hey, Aaron, what is this A.G.E pill that I've been seeing on Facebook?" And I said, "Well, it's really an interesting product." And I kind of went through it a little bit like I did a few minutes ago. And my niece, who's 22, was sitting there, and she just glazed over. She was like glycated. Right? I'm kidding you, but she was literally like the glycation that I'm talking about, just a blank look on her face, had no interest until I started talking about how it affected endurance athletes and how people could see an increase of 3 to 4 times the energy, 3 to 4 times the regeneration, 3 to 4 times the stem cell production, et cetera, and then VO2 max when we start talking about that. But so I had to go from old to very young to be able to get her peaked up again. So interestingly, what we had noticed, or what I had noticed in that conversation, is it really depends on the age or the demographic that you're talking to. Because if it's people, for instance, me being 50, I'm very interested in being young or staying young, but I don't feel like I'm old. I don't feel like I'm aging per se. So for me, I'm interested in trying to find out how it can give me more energy. I'm interested in how it can help me with my ATP and the function of the mitochondria to really spark that up again, so that I can have that energy level. And I think it comes down to that. I think it comes down to the energy that you're looking for. I think it comes back down to youth, and the reason that we call it the A.G.E pill. And there's an explanation there, as I mentioned earlier. You can use that explanation as best you can or as easy as you want, in terms of what it does for the human body. But if somebody said to me, "Hey, do you want more energy?" I'd of course say, "Yeah, but how are you going to give that to me?" Well, let's talk about how our bodies are working right now in terms of glycation and lipofusion. Well, what's that? Well, glycation is this process of sugars meeting proteins that then creates this barrier that doesn't allow the cells to work correctly and properly, and that functionality is gone. And guess what happens? We have the ability to go in and break down that glycation so that the lipofusion that hits, which is just cellular garbage. You don't even need to know glycation, really. You don't need to even know lipofusion. As we go through life, toxins, chemicals, that cellular garbage that builds up inside the cell needs to be removed. And once that waste is removed, now the cell can start working properly again. But again, the older you are, most likely, the more cellular garbage you have and the more glycation you have over the top of the cell that's not allowing your cell to do its job, is bottom line. So again, I'm not sure exactly, when you walk up and you try to role play and have that conversation, but it is something that's very specific to helping people understand. I'm going to help you with your energy levels. I want to help you jump out of bed in the morning and not just roll out and hit your knees unless you're praying. Those are the things that we talk about. But when you're done praying, then, I want to give you the ability to jump up and
hit the ground,
throw your arms up in the air. Yeah. So anyways, I think that's part of the process. But again, I think you keep it so simple so that you don't feel like you are trying to talk like Tom Sr. Nobody can do it. And I guarantee you this, it's impossible, and it makes you look a little foolish. Get your story down in terms of how you feel it affects you and what you think it does for you personally, but then also realize what's the age that you're talking to and what's going to get them excited about getting on a product like this because of that age. 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s versus 20s, 30s, 40s.
Well, and that makes total sense to me. I mean, it's just what's exciting, Aaron. It's for everybody. I mean, it's not just for the young guy, the middle guy, the old guy. It's for all of us. And I'll just tell you what we're feeling just so far. And we're going to start the double up thing. We just did the first few days as just normal dose, and then we'll add the double dose that Tom talked about just to accelerate. On a cellular level a little bit faster, but we are feeling some more energy. And what's kind of interesting is we had a little bit of a detox in the beginning from it, and we're pretty nutritioned up by no stretch of the imagination. And so it got rid of some extra, I don't want to say water fluid or, body fluid or something like that, or water fluid or water retention or something like that. So we had a little bit of a detox along those lines. And that kind of made an impression on me. I'm like, that's pretty cool. And then, obviously, I'm one of these guys, Aaron, and you've been around me enough to know that I'm a night guy, and I love nights and have a blast. And I'm also a morning guy, and I love mornings. So it doesn't matter. I wake up, and I'm just ready to go. Well, what I found is that I wake up, and not only am I ready to go, but it just gives you that sustained energy throughout the morning. And and so I'm loving what we're feeling on it already. So, and then all the stuff you're talking about. But Aaron, thanks for being on the call today, and we just appreciate you so much. Just so you know that.
Well, I appreciate each one of you, and again recognize, guys. I do have, as DW mentioned earlier, I do have the opportunity to sit and listen to Tom Sr. As a matter of fact, I think some days, and this is going to sound horrible for me to say, but I think we can all be friends here. Some days we'll sit down and Tom will go through the exact same conversation that he went through the day before, and I sit and listen, but it's repetitive for me, so I don't stop him. Sometimes I do if it's just a story that he's telling me, and I sit, and then I end the story for him and say, remember, you already told me that 32 times. But on this one, I actually say, I want to hear it over and over again because I need to understand how it works because it's so complex. And that's finally what I've done is start to break it down to the most easy conversation that I possibly can so that it doesn't get so deep. I don't need to be deep. I need to probably understand two words that are specific to it, glycation and lipofusum. And once you guys can kind of break those two down, glycation being that sugary substance that hits the protein, creates the barrier, and lipofusum being cellular garbage that builds up over the course of time. If you can remember those two functional pieces, then the mitochondria, then the ATP, the biological hydrogen, and the electrical energy, you'll have your story down. Then you just wrap your personality around it and start talking just like I did. And I guarantee you those are the most simplistic pieces. It's about 5 different trigger phrases or words. And once you have those down, I think you can talk to anybody. So DW, thanks for having me on the call, and my pleasure being here and love talking about this stuff, as you well know.
Well, and real quick question or comment that you can jump on. So, that's probably why we felt a little bit of the detox, some of the cellular garbage getting dumped. And then the second thing is, people can aid themselves by no longer putting any bad carbs or bad sugar in their body to start with, and that's gonna accelerate things as well. Am I correct in saying that? In addition to that, make sure they're getting, walking 10 minutes a day, 5 minutes as far as you can, then walk 5 minutes back, getting some exercise as well stimulates everything. Am I correct in saying those two things about the sugar and the exercise?
Well, absolutely. Your diet and exercise are going to compound the effects. And so if you can, we think about it, we've got a couple of different groups here at the office that we have them go off on a walk. And it's not, we just recommended it, go for a morning and afternoon walk. And, 4 or 5 people meet at the front desk in the morning and they take their triangle of life and then they go off on the walk. And they walk around our office building and Supra manufacturing facility, our manufacturing facility, and then they walk back and they take about 10 or 15 minutes and they just get a little brisk exercise in. And then on the flip side of that, they're trying to eat a little bit more healthy and diary that and all that good stuff. And so it is. It comes down to diet and exercise. And if we can institute some of that and implement it into our daily routines, and then start thinking again, like you said, let's not eat, the sugars, and let's try to stay away as much as we can from the carbohydrates that just are going to convert to fat after you don't use them because you're not getting out and you're not being active. Those are the things that are going to build up. And like you, again, I'm just going to attest to something that you said, but I felt the same way. When I first got on the A.G.E pill, I felt like I was just, I don't know how best to say it, but urinating out more than normal. And I felt like that was a very common occurrence. But I'm telling you guys, and I know this is gross, but we're on a doctor's call, so maybe we can just be frank, there was a different smell. And it was an opportunity for me to kind of recognize that the toxins and chemicals and the things that were being flushed were good for the system to get out, and that was hopefully that lipofusum that had built up in the stem cells. So I think you're right, DW. I think there's a whole process there.
Well, I tell you what, Aaron, it's exciting to be a part of Tom's process, and Aaron mentioned something earlier, everybody, that Tom is not done with this product. He'll keep tweaking it and making it and doing it, won't he, Aaron? He'll just do stuff, and it's just like our eternity. He doubled the resveratrol that's in it, so it tastes a little woody right now. It tastes a little, just has a little bit different taste. But he didn't raise the price. So, I'll take the price not being raised and have a little bit of a taste challenge to it compared to what it was before, because we were spoiled for the results that we're going to get when it comes to what the resveratrol or the product called Eternity that actually does. But you put the Triangle of Life with this product, and you add the TSX with your A.G.E pill, and you're setting yourself up for some success. And you're putting your body in its best position to operate in optimal health. Well, that's it for the Doctor's Clinic. Aaron Rennert, we love you, brother. Thanks for being part of this. Doc Kirk will be back with us soon. And we just love what we're doing here and the impact that this call is making on people's lives. And we thank everyone that participates and helps with it. That's it for the call. We'll same time, same place next week.